Most people feel stuck and isolated because they avoid the hard conversations that can bring healing. On Let's Get Real with Jena, we tackle life's challenges like motherhood, mental health, and relationships so you can break free, find healing, and move forward. Because in order to heal, we have to get real. So pull up a chair and let's dive in. Have you ever been asked, what do you like to do for fun? Or what are you passionate about? Or what hobbies do you have? And when you're asked these questions, you draw a blank. Like you have no idea how to answer any of those questions. Well, if this feels familiar, these are likely signs that you've lost yourself. Unfortunately, this is all too common, especially for moms. Research shows that moms carry 71% of the household mental load tasks. Dads focus on project-based tasks, like finances and home repairs, while moms manage the daily tasks. The imbalance of this workload is what research shows contributes to the stress, burnout, and career strains for moms. So when I read this, I felt like, wow, I feel seen. And they get me. It really resonated with what I've experienced in motherhood. This is often called what I've heard a lot of people say as the mental load, where a lot of the weight that we carry as moms, it's typically fairly invisible. Like you can't necessarily see it. And we have like 100 tabs opened in our mind because we know all the things that we're responsible for, the countless, endless things that we have to do, the errands we have to run, the activities our kids are in, and how we have to buy the uniforms for the next sport this coming season, or we're planning the field trip and making sure they have everything. Like there is so much of a mental load that we carry as moms, mostly far more than dads. The weight of all of these responsibilities and endless tasks is what can feel like it is straight up suffocating us, where we can come to a point that we don't really recognize who we are anymore. Like we have been crushed under the debilitating weight of doing everything for everyone, trying to be everything for everyone, take care of all the things. And then it's almost like we wake up one day and we don't recognize who we are. This was very, very true for me. I remember when it was a very obvious. So there was this one day that my friend had invited me out to lunch, right? So it seems like a normal situation that should have been happening all the time, but it wasn't. And I was very excited to get to see her because at this time I was pregnant with my second. I had a toddler who was about 18 months old, and my husband had been gone working in Australia. He'd been gone for 6 weeks. At this time, it was also the dead of winter here in Nashville, which for people who are in the Midwest, it may seem like, oh, that's not a big deal because you deal with snow all the time. Well, the issue is that in Nashville, when it snows, we don't have the equipment to plow the road. So you are truly snowed in, stuck inside. And for me, all of this happening at one time, it was kind of a recipe for disaster. We had a lot more snow that year, and so I definitely was depressed. Like I remember feeling very trapped. I mean, physically I was trapped. Like there was no way I was leaving the house, and unless I really wanted to risk getting an accident. And I just remember feeling pretty hopeless. And this pregnancy was also a really, really hard pregnancy. I was in a lot of pain. I was also a high-risk pregnancy, so I was seeing doctors every other week. And there was a lot to this. So when I finally got to meet my friend for lunch, I managed to set up a sitter. I was able to escape kid-free, have adult conversations, something I'd been like desperately craving and wanting to do, and finally had the chance. So as soon as I met her, we went to this really great smoothie bar. It's like one of my favorites here in Nashville. And she asked me when I first saw her, she's like, hey, how are you? Really common question. We get asked that probably a million times a day. And the words just fell out of my mouth. I feel dead inside. And she was just as shocked as I was, like that I even admitted that, let alone like said that sentence, I feel dead inside. And so we both were fairly shocked and just started laughing because it was like, wow, okay, that's really where I'm at. And I remember at that time, being able to just admit that, even though it was more of a reaction, it really woke me up to the reality that I felt lost. I felt like I didn't know who I was. And I felt like in the midst of being in the thick of motherhood, I lost connection with me. Like I didn't recognize, there was no time to be able to pursue hobbies or interests, like things I wanted to do, because I was completely overwhelmed by and all consumed. My time was just taken up by doing laundry endlessly. My toddler, he couldn't do anything himself. So, wiping butts all the time and then cutting up like a million fruits for the day and then endless spills and messes and cleaning all that up while being in the midst of solo parenting with my husband being gone for several weeks and just in a crap ton of pain. Like I was not okay. So this was a big wake up call where I was like, wow, this is truly where I'm at. And I finally admitted it. And hearing myself say it, I'm like, this isn't okay. Like I've got to figure out what to do to feel like me again and to start feeling like I'm coming alive again. While I knew that something had to change, I also had no idea where to start. So that was a big issue at this point where it's like, okay, I don't know where to start. I also don't have the support that I really need to even have the time to go get the help that I need and to go take the action. So there was a lot, it just felt very overwhelming. So that's kind of what I remember in that time. And one of the things that I've learned, especially because early motherhood, right? Like you go into motherhood immediately, you are in survival mode. Your baby comes out and it's like, okay, round the clock, every 2 hours, you're feeding this child. So they're eating like 10 to 12 times a day. You're lucky if you get a wink of sleep. If the baby can even sleep. And then I know for me, I was like, man, if I can brush my teeth, that's a win. And then if I take a shower, that's very significant, let alone if I wash my hair. If I washed my hair in those early times, I felt like that was a huge victory. I remember texting my sister, guess what? I have clean hair and it's been over a week. She's like, wow, that's kind of sad, but good job. And so like you just get thrust into the survival mode. And what I've learned after having a couple kids and being able to figure out what it was that I needed to find myself to climb out of the survival mode, I learned that survival mode is meant to be for a season, but it is not meant to be a way of life. And it's too easy for us as moms with all the weight of responsibilities, the way our culture is set up, where it's very individualistic. We don't have a lot of support built in unless you're lucky enough to live near family. And I just remember realizing it is too easy to get sucked into this vortex of staying in survival mode, even when your kids are like school aged and even getting into like preteens or whatever, just because it can become habitual and a way that we are used to living. In order to get out of survival mode, it takes a lot of intentionality. And we also have to combat a lot of beliefs that we carry, that we've been fed to us from our stories, from our own mothers or our grandmothers, or just our culture and social media. So there's a lot of faulty beliefs that can keep us stuck. One of those beliefs that I really struggled with, that's also really common, is that since having kids, the thought was, I don't matter as much now. I have my kids, I have my husband, all these people in my family who need so much. It's endless. Like their demands never end. Kids never stop asking for stuff. As soon as I will meet one demand, the next is following within seconds or minutes later. And so it's easy to get into this place of believing that, everybody else matters more than I do. And I'm not valuable. I have to prove my worth. I have to do all these tasks and perform to feel like I matter and I'm significant. And then once I meet everybody else's demands and their needs, then maybe I will have time to meet mine. But too often that doesn't happen. First of all, it's like, again, endless demands. And then it's hard to even find the time to meet those for ourselves. The other belief that I have struggled with is that being a good mom means not needing anything. I think this has kind of been mind-blowing because it's almost like we have this super mom complex, and there's these expectations, like I mentioned earlier, we're to be everything to everyone. We need to do everything on our own. We shouldn't have to ask for help. And everybody else is allowed to have needs except us. I mean, it's really amazing because as moms, we know our kids and our husbands, our family so well. Like each person in our circle, we can anticipate their needs. We can actually anticipate what they're about to ask for. And we are just fantastic at knowing in advance and even like being able to predict it and go and do the things that we know they're going to ask us for and be like, oh, done, here you go. But when it comes to us and we ask the question, what do I need? We have no clue. That is how disconnected we are from ourselves. We're excellent at taking care of everybody else, but we are unable to really take care of ourselves. And this is a problem. It contributes to feeling like we're dead inside, feeling like we don't know who we are. We've lost our sense of self. And it is something that needs to change, but we have to change the way we think about it. We have to take different action and realize that part of being human is having needs. Being human is being needy. We see that, and we also give permission to our kids, right? It's like, hey, you have a million needs, but I'm not allowed. And that is not true. It's also forsaking our humanity instead of embracing that I'm a needy human. This has been a very difficult hurdle for me to get over. I still combat that most days. The next lie that I found that I was believing is that I'm failing if I'm asking for help. This one's really hard. This one like hits me almost every day because I have found that when I'm in those places of needing to ask for help, I am hit with one of two feelings or two situations. I'm either afraid or I have pride. I'm either afraid that if I ask for help and I speak up and I go to my husband or someone else and say, hey, can you help me with this? That they'll say no. And if they say no, I'm going to be on my own, left to have to figure it out by myself and feel that rejection. So there's fear around asking for help in that regard. And then the other side is pride. Like I have found this is one I bump up against a lot because it's almost like, and it's really driven by shame. Pride has been so driven by shame. It's the shame of being a needy human, of having limitations and saying like, having to admit I can't do this. I can't do it on my own. I need help. That's been one of the hardest things for me. And I've realized that the more I can accept my limitations, it's honestly very humbling. Like it is very humbling to look at myself and see, even with my physical health conditions and all that going on, like I am physically unable to do as much as I used to. I am limited physically. I also have a limited capacity mentally of what I can take on. And emotionally, I'm also limited. I can only handle so much. And I'll get flooded in certain situations where I get triggered and I'm having to calm myself down. Like I am limited in so many areas. And to admit that and take an honest look has been very, very difficult. But what I've found is that in finally admitting it, and there is this wrestling match. Like I have so been in a wrestling match with confessing and admitting, yeah, I can't do it and I need help. And then the shame of like, you should be able to handle all of this. You should be able to do it all on your own. You shouldn't, like, look at all these other moms, they're able to do that. And it's like, man, I am limited, I can't. And every time that I do admit I'm not able to, I'm instantly met with the shame. And so it's been this process of having to tease that apart and sort it out to be able to weaken the grip of this, to help me choose to ask for help a lot more frequently. It's still very hard, but it is getting easier the more that I do it. One of the essential things that we need to help us fill back up, to help us reconnect with who we are. It's really summed up in the word self-care. And honestly, I really kind of hate the word now because it's so overused, and I think we don't really understand what it's meant to be just because it's thrown out there so many times. But I want to start with what self-care is not. So self-care is not an escape from reality. It's not meant to be used to numb out. Self-care is not meant to be something where we had a really hard day, we're overwhelmed, we feel trapped, and we just need to escape the pain while still having to deal with the same circumstances. This can look like scrolling mindlessly on Instagram, where it actually feeds more depression, more anxiety, FOMO, like you end up feeling worse about yourself. Like this is not helpful, it's not replenishing, it's actually eating away even more. One of the ways that I would try to escape was through wine. That was something for me where in the daily, I would constantly face these situations where I felt really overwhelmed, I felt trapped, I felt pretty helpless about the situation. Like I didn't think there was anything I could do to create change to get out of it. And so I would resort to coping with it with wine. And wine, it really was a way of escape for me. I was like, I don't know how to deal with this. I don't know what to do with these emotions. So I'm just going to go to this thing. Hopefully I can get through the rest of the day. But then I'd wake up and I would feel so much worse. Like not just physically, but even emotionally. Like I didn't have any kind of replenishment. Self-care is really about learning to take care of ourselves. It's learning to care for us. And like I mentioned earlier, we are so good at anticipating what everybody else needs. We're so good at taking care of everybody else, but we have to learn how to take care of ourselves. And we have to be able to start saying, hey, what do I need? And how can I answer that? Like, what is a need I have here? Is it the need for attention? Is it the need for listening? Is it the need for support? I know that's been a really big one for me. There's so many needs that we do have as humans. And so self-care is saying, hey, I'm feeling a certain way. What is something that I need? What's this indicating to me that I need? And being able to go make that happen, like carve out the time or take the action to go replenish us and fill ourselves up. Because obviously we know motherhood is so incredibly demanding. It's a constant outpouring. So we have to learn and get really good at learning what we need to fill ourselves back up. And the thing I want to say about that is it's not meant to be buffet style. So it's not meant to be like, I have a girls trip this quarter, or this month I am getting a massage, which is great if that's something that you need and it helps fill you up. However, that's still buffet style. Even if you do something once a week and you say, okay, I'm going to, go for coffee with my friend once a week, but then you do nothing else all the rest of the 6 days, that's a buffet style self-care routine, which you're going to feel completely depleted by the time you get there. And we actually parent even worse than if we were to create regular rhythms to really care for ourselves and fill ourselves back up. So that is the need. That's what I found. And this doesn't need to be long. Like it can take a few minutes. Like I have found a few minutes of journaling, whether it's in the morning or at night, just to get my thoughts out or to express my feelings on paper. That's been helpful. It can also be a 10-minute walk, or it can be like I know one of the things I learned I had to do after having my daughter. I had such little time. I mostly had very little energy. And after I had my daughter, I was like, hey, working out helps me feel better. But normally I would work out for like an hour. I did not have that time or energy. So I was like, hey, 5 minutes. I'm starting with 5 minutes. And I'd follow this like little video workout routine for 5 minutes. And that was really hard for me at first because I typically have an all or nothing way of thinking, which has been something I'm working on. But in that, I'm like, okay, if I don't have an hour, then I'm not doing it at all. Well, that didn't work. Like, especially in the season of having two very small kids, like I just needed to find those tiny windows of time and do something. And what I learned is that the more I did it, the better I felt. Like, these were things that were life-giving. It helped me feel replenished. I was like, oh my gosh, I can show up better. I have more capacity. I have more patience because I got to do even 5 minutes for myself. The other thing that I really love is taking a bath. At the end of the day, I was never, ever, ever a bath person. I was like, what are those, besides when I was a kid? And so baths are like my favorite thing. I was like, oh wow, I get to do this thing where I just sit and soak and I don't have to move for at least 20 minutes. Like, this is gold. And so that has been my favorite thing at the end of the day. Like, I lock the door, no children allowed. My husband will take over if they need anything. That has been very restorative as like a regular rhythm to my day. I want to point out that this is likely going to be trial and error, because when we have gone for so long disconnected from ourselves, we can't answer those questions initially. Like, what do I love? What am I passionate about? What do I do for fun? It's going to be trial and error. Like, we got to immerse ourselves into explore mode where we're like, okay, I'm going to try this. And even if you try something and you find that's not it, great. Like, you're getting closer to something that you do enjoy. And so we have to just give ourselves the grace and the space to try these different things and say, okay, like, this is part of kind of coming back to developing this relationship with ourselves, because it's, again, been so long where we haven't really had that. So I really want to encourage explore mode and just trying something. So if there's a thought that comes to mind, great, like, give that a shot, because that's just a starting point. And as long as you just keep going and you keep trying, you will figure out and you will find out what specific activities really help you start to feel like you. So that day that I got to see my friend and I told her I feel dead inside, that was a big wake-up call, like I mentioned. However, it wasn't necessarily the catalyst that led me to taking way more action, because, like I said, I just had no idea where to start. And so what led me to realize, oh my gosh, I have to do something. I have to do something about this. I don't know where to, I'm going to find a way. I'm going to find many ways. I don't know. I was postpartum. My daughter was 4 months old. I remember driving on the freeway and I was heading to go pick up dinner for my family. So I was going to Chick-fil-A. About 10 minutes before I was going to pull into the Chick-fil-A parking lot, I started to feel pain. And it was pain in my head, which progressively grew, and it turned into pain in my neck, and then down my back and into my right arm. And this pain, it just continued to grow and grow and grow. That by the time I pulled into the Chick-fil-A parking lot, I was shot right into a debilitating panic attack. This sensation of pain mimicked what I had experienced about 2.5 years prior with my son when he was 3 months old, where I had my first pseudoaneurysm. And so this really freaked me out. And I remember sitting in the drive-thru and I called my husband. I rolled the window down. I hadn't yet been greeted by a Chick-fil-A person. And I called him. I said, hey, I don't know what's happening. I feel like I'm going to faint. I don't know if I will, but if I do, this is where I'm at. I have the window down. I'm going to leave you on speakerphone because if I faint, like, this person will be able to tell you where I'm at. I need help and I'm not okay. And I was able to make it through that drive-thru. I parked in the parking lot, called my sister, and she was amazing at helping talk me down. She helped through like grounding techniques, help my brain to stop flooding and just to finally get present, breathe, to where I ended up not fainting, I'm super grateful for that. And then my husband had our neighbor watch the kids so he could come pick me up. We left the car there overnight. I talked to my doctor the next day and I said, look, here's what happened. Is this postpartum anxiety or is it something else? Because this is serious. Like I realize from this experience, I'm really not okay and I need help. I need to figure out what I need to get well. He asked me a series of questions and said, this sounds like it's PTSD from what triggered it and the pain and all these things in the situation where it almost mimicked what I had experienced with my son. So that was the thing that really catapulted me to realize I have to take this seriously. If I don't, there would be a huge cost, and I want to be here for my kids. So what do I need to do? So I ended up getting into counseling pretty immediately. I scheduled a doctor appointment with a neurosurgeon who then referred me to get physical therapy for the pain. And as I had physical therapy a couple times a week, I quickly realized, okay, I'm going to need more support. Like I have a baby at home with me. My son was in a Mother's Day Out program at the time. So it's like, if I have these doctor's appointments, if I have counseling and I have physical therapy multiple times a week, and I only have a few hours each day, like twice a week, I need someone to watch my daughter. So I found a sitter, and I remember hiring and paying the sitter and being like, wow, feeling so guilty leaving. Feeling so guilty because I thought I should be able to do it all. Like I should be here for her. I should be able to be with her all the time. I shouldn't need help. But the reality was, if I was there with her all the time, I don't know how much worse this would have gotten. The other thoughts running through my head was that good moms don't take time for themselves. I was like, man, where did I learn that? Well, it's part of my own story. And so I was really wrestling with the guilt, which I realized was shame, like shame of just this not enoughness. Like nothing I do is enough. Like I should always be doing more and achieving more. And I just needed to not be human in order to fulfill these crazy expectations. And through this process, I realized I absolutely needed help. Like I needed help in order to become a more whole version of myself. Because prior to doing any of that, I was parenting as a shell of myself. Like I was impatient. I was in a crap ton of pain. So I wasn't able to really be present. I was like robbed out of the present moment because I was constantly like worried and anxious and focused on how much pain I was in. And so I was like, man, it's actually not good for my kids if I'm going to stay in this position. And I realized that my kids deserved better. And ultimately, I deserved better. My kids deserved better and I deserved better. And so I needed to get the help that I needed for that season. And that's what I did. But it was a lot of hurdles mentally to overcome in order to get the support I needed so I could get well. And this is something that I found it's definitely not just been for me. This is so common for most moms. And it's so sad. It's so sad that we don't value ourselves enough to say, hey, I am worth getting well, because I know ultimately it's going to have the biggest positive effect onto you. I've mentioned this need for support now like several times. That, I swear, this has been the biggest need I have found for myself is support. But what I've realized, like that word support, we're like, hey, cool, but like, what does that mean? It looks different for everybody. And there's so many ways to get this need met. So for me at this time, I realized, okay, the support I needed was physically, right? Like my physical body. So I had a doctor. I also was in physical therapy multiple times a week. I had the support from a physical therapist. I also had support from a counselor and support with a sitter to help watch my daughter. Like I realized I need to enlist support. I need to build out the support I need so I can thrive, I can flourish, I can get back to being the person God made me to be. So the other aspect of support that I had started was literally going to support groups. Like, I mean, I was like all in. I realized, oh my gosh, I need a ton of help. So I joined multiple support groups. And I remember on a Tuesday night, I was on my way to go to the support group. I just finished up dinner with my family, and my son was 2 or 3 at the time. I said, okay, guys, like, I love you. I'm going to go to this group, go to this meeting, and I'll be back after. And my son came running and he starts crying. He's like, no, Mama, don't leave me. Don't leave me. I need you. And it was so hard because I felt like my heartstrings were just completely pulled on. And it was almost this jolt, like I was headed towards the door, but it's like a jolt back towards my son of like, oh yeah, I could just say no to this. But then I realized I was like, I need to not let guilt drive this bus anymore. I need to use reason. I need to use my will and be able to use the brain God gave me to say like, no, like this is what I know is best, and make an intentional choice so that guilt would no longer dictate what I do. And again, I've said like it was actually shame. And so I remember saying to him, I know, buddy, I know this is really hard for you, but this is going to make me a better mom. And I ended up leaving. I remember pulling out of the driveway and again, just overwhelmed with guilt and this back and forth battle of like, should I stay? Do I go? And the whole drive there feeling bad, just feeling like I'm a bad mom. I shouldn't need this. I shouldn't need support. I should be well. I should be okay. I should have things figured out. But I didn't. That was the reality. I did not. And I desperately needed this. And so with enough action, what I found was that in order to not let guilt dictate what I did and didn't do, I needed to keep taking action. And as I did, like this intentional action and knowing why I'm doing it. And as I did, guilt shrunk. And I still feel it. And like I've said, I'll say like guilt is really just shame and a mask. So guilt, shame, sometimes it is guilt, most of the time it's shame. But it's this thing where it's like, I don't want this to keep running my life. And the more that I have just stayed consistent, the less it has been able to take over my life and drive the bus. What I've found over time with doing this enough is that the rewards on the other side of all this work has been so worth it. Like getting a taste and seeing that, which can take a while when you're doing this kind of work and you're reconnecting with yourself, you're seeking healing and wholeness and being well, like being the person God intended you to be. It's a ton of work, but then you get these glimmers and glimpses and see the fruit of what's produced by putting in the work, and you realize how worth it is. That's what I noticed. I was like, I am able to show up as a far better mom. Like I actually have patience. I can actually be present. I'm not thinking of the million to-dos that I have to do constantly. I'm able to be engaged. I'm able to listen. I'm able to actually enjoy my kids and not just endure them. That was huge. And it was the thing that really kept me going. As I mentioned earlier, when I had met with my friend and I was like, wow, I feel dead inside. I said how I didn't know where to start. I didn't know what to do. And it took the catalytic event of a debilitating panic attack to finally lead me to desperately seek out help and healing. Well, I came up with 3 questions that are really simple, and it can take just a couple minutes to answer. And even if you answer one, these are just questions that are meant to help you start reconnecting with you. It's like a starting point. If you want to pursue the journey of finding yourself again, of reconnecting with the person that God made you to be, just take a few minutes to answer these questions. The first is, what is something you used to do regularly that made you feel alive? Second is, what topics do you find yourself naturally curious about? Third is, what did you love doing as a child that you stopped doing as an adult? After having my son, one of the things that I wanted to do that I hadn't done since I was a kid was take a dance class. My neighbor and I ended up starting to go to this hip hop class once a week, which was super fun. And I had a blast. And I remember struggling at first because I was like, okay, this isn't productive. This isn't, is this frivolous, whatever. But I cannot tell you how amazing it was to get to go once a week with a friend where I could just focus on that 1 hour doing something that was enjoyable for me. It was very, very life-giving. It also was an area of creativity. I mean, I was not great at it, but it was really fun. And that was something that really helped connect with me and these desires that I've had, and just carving out an hour a week to do something enjoyable, like take a dance class. If we're really wanting to get out of survival mode and say this no longer gets to be a way of life, I'm going to move away from floundering and towards flourishing, it requires intentional action toward life-giving activities that may seem frivolous to some people, but these are absolutely essential for us to thrive as human beings. As we close, I want to share something that I made just for you. It's called the Overwhelmed Mom's Guide, 10 Small Ways to Start Feeling Like You Again. This came out of my own pain point, as you know. So if you've been carrying all of these things lately, like managing dentist appointments, making lunches, holding everybody's emotions but your own, and you're wondering where you went in the midst of all of this free guide is for you. It's not another list of things to add to your already full plate. These are small, simple steps to start taking your life back, to feel like you again. Not as a burned out version of you, but as a whole person that God intended you to be. You can get the free guide by clicking in the link in the show notes. You don't have to do it all at once, just start small. I am cheering you on, friend. Until next time, I cannot wait to talk to you soon. Thanks for listening to Let's Get Real. If something from today's episode resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a conversation. Until next time, remember that in order to heal, we have to get real. Talk to you soon, friend.